Let's make a quilt with Mama B. 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 Let's make a quilt with Mama B.
And so now I know that I need to cut a circle that is 4.5 inches in diameter, because I'm adding another inch to the 3.5 inches that are here on the Dresden plate opening. Okay, and I am going to use a 360 True Cut circle cutter. And some of you have this, and I would like to show you how to use it. I had also recommended that you watch a couple of tapes on YouTube so that you could learn more about it and know how to use it more accurately and safely. And it does have some very special features. You do see the ruler here, and on this little, and you also see a little red indicator there. As I move the center or the fulcrum there, after some struggle and some embarrassment, this does slide along the ruler. So in order for me to get my 4.5 inch measurement, I need to put the red mark that you see right here on the 4.5 inch mark there. And that's going to help me cut the size circle that I need. And by the way, the ruler is on both sides, so it doesn't matter which side you're using at the moment. So this little knob that's in the middle has lock and unlock on it. And at the moment I have it unlocked. That's why it's able to slide along the length of the ruler. But I want to put it at the 4.5 inch mark, and I'm going to turn it so that it will lock. And now I can't move it. Now it's locked and I can't move it. This is the part that we're going to use as the fulcrum. This is what we cut using this as the center. The blade for your cutter is in this housing, and this is where you want to be very careful. The blade is right there. My finger's almost touching it. It's right there, which is why you're never ever going to pick this up from the bottom. You're always going to handle this from the top. The blade does come with a cover so that when you stop using it and you're putting it away for good, you can put that cover on it, which is another safety feature. Now, in order to use it, we have to unlock it. And you can see this on yours. It says unlock down here. You pull that out. Now it's ready for us to use. And I've got some fabric here that I'm going to use to demonstrate how you're going to use this. Now you were asked to have some fusible interfacing, which is what I have right here, and your fabric, and I'm just going to cut this piece of purple. In order to cut these, you should cut the interfacing and the fabric at the same time. It ensures that you have the same size circle for both pieces of fabric. So we put the fabric right side to the right side of our interfacing. The fusible is on the bottom, the right side is up, the right side of the fabric is down, and we are ready to cut. Make sure you get that, and that's the way you cut your circles, because then you will be able to pick the circle up, go right to the sewing machine, sew the two pieces together, and not have to manipulate anything. So how are you going to use the cutter? You're going to put pressure on the midpoint, this point, and make sure you're using your cutting mat, because you've got a self-healing mat, and it will heal itself too after this. Then you're going to put pressure on Oh, I'm sorry, I had you to unlock it. I should have kept it locked. Pressure on the blade. And you have cut your circle. And there you have the fashion fabric and the interfacing cut at the same time. And this is what we do with it. Pin them together, just like you cut them. Take them to the sewing machine. Stitch all the way around the circle. Stitch the two together. Do not leave an opening. Stitch all the way around the circle. Do not leave an opening. Stitch all the way around the circle. When you have finished stitching, you're going to clip as you did before to ease the fullness. Just clip all the way around like you did when you were making the top of the rounded spoke. And then trim that seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch. You started out 1/4 of an inch. Trim the seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch. Now that you have done that, clip the interfacing. Just pull it up and clip the interfacing, being careful not to clip your fabric. And then you want to cut the interfacing out, leaving 1/2 of an inch all the way around. Just cut the interfacing right out of that. And you leave 1/2 of an inch around. What you're doing is making sure you are getting rid of the raw edge of your circle. And this is one of the best ways to take care of the raw edge, is by using this interfacing. Now we're ready to turn. Turn this to the right side. The fusible will go in toward the circle itself. And when you press it, it will fuse to the inside of that circle, and you will have a nice flat circle that you will be ready to applique onto your Dresden plate. Make sure you get that seam so that the seam is at the side, not at the bottom or the top. But just take your time, run your finger around that seam. And eventually, this is what you get. You take that to the ironing board and press it, and that's how your circle will look. Okay, so we're ready to put these circles onto our Dresden plates. And here we've got this one. Notice I have this yellow circle pinned right here because I cut it. It has the interfacing on it. It's been pressed, and now it's ready for me to apply it right there. You see that? And so now all I need to do is I can put a few pins in it, take it to the sewing machine, and stitch around that edge. And if you look at the quilt behind me again, you will see that that has been done in each of the instances here. Now, I chose to use variegated threads in some places. I chose to use some decorative stitches from my machine in the same color as the Dresden plate. This one, of course, has yellow, and I used a satin stitch around the circle there. Here, I didn't do anything but just decorate it. There's no satin stitch. It's just stitched on with the thread with which I sewed it together. This one has a satin stitch, and then I even decorated the opening there. So you can treat it any way you want once you get it on. Putting it on is going to be up to you. How are you going to stitch it? This is really a good time to use some of those decorative stitches that are in your sewing machine that you've never used before. You paid for them, but you never used them before. Here's a good time to use them. And once you get each of your circles on, you're ready then to make sure that you sew all of your quilt together and embellish as much as you would like to embellish. And like I said, use your decorative stitches to help you with that. Use variegated threads. Use all kinds of threads that you have not used, didn't know you had them. Look in your stash. You've got them there. And then you can even decorate or embellish the spokes on the Dresden plate, as I've done here. So the sky is the limit. You're only limited by your imagination. And I'd like to see you just get as creative and inventive as possible. Sometimes people think the Dresden plate looks like a flower. And so you can decorate it to look like a flower, look like the veins in a flower. Here's one, I did that there, and I think I did that here. Play around with what you have. Don't put yourself in a pigeonhole and just think that once you get those plates together and get them on the background fabric that you're done. No, let your creativity and your imagination run wild and have a good time with creating something that is so special because you made it and you used your own creativity and know-how to do that. So here's our Dresden plate quilt. You're going to have your Dresden plate quilt, and I hope I get to see all of them. Thank you for joining us for Let's Make a Quilt Together, and happy Dresden plate quilting. Bye-bye.